Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Today, we'll be talking about the digital transformation for the financial industry, and we'll introduce a new approach via cognitive decision making. I am your host, Bill Richilla. I am the Senior Product Manager and Strategist for Loven Systems' DWO software offering. Along with me, we have two more panelists, Rajesh Patel. He is the co-founder and CEO of Digital Align. And I also have with me Gaurav Johari. He is a principal at Loven Systems' DWO platform. Rajesh, if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Rajesh Patel. I'm a digital transformation consultant at Digital Align. And I basically work with financial services, mainly with credit unions and community banks. And our team of experts at Digital Align focuses on helping financial institutions in their digital transformation journey. That includes starting from discovery to planning to implementation and value realization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Rajesh. I'd like to turn it over to Gaurav Johari. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Bill. Hi, this is Gaurav Johari. I'm the principal at Loven Systems, owner of our DWO platform. My role is principal business architect as well, which is to define the right solutions for our clients to be deployed on DWO. And I also manage client relationships across industries.
Thank you very much for that, Gaurav. Today on the webinar, we'll be discussing the digital transformation project idea. We'll be answering questions such as what really is digital transformation, how is it really facilitated, and what type of solution not only facilitates that digital transformation, but even provides continuous improvement via new cognitive processing technologies. With that, I will turn it over to Rajesh.
Thank you. All right. So digital transformation is being widely used in these days, and it's a lot of financial institutions are already getting onto this bandwagon of digital transformation. Based on the financial institutions that we work with that range from $50 million assets to $50 billion assets, we have seen two types of digital players. The one is the digital explorer, what we call, or the digital dreamers, and the other is a digital player who have done some of the digital work. The digital explorers are aspiring to be digital first, while the digital players are looking to build a digital center of excellence and are looking to realize value of the implementation that they already had on the digital channel. And what we are seeing is there are not many digital resistors at this time because the customer expectations are very high on the digital channel. So a lot of smaller financial institutions are thinking about digital. They are exploring new ideas to become digital, and the bigger players have done some of the base platform that work need to be done for becoming digital and also trying to expand there and realize value. All right. Most digital transformations are driven by business objectives, and if they are not, they should be. And the business objectives can range from new revenue generation to reducing cost and becoming more efficient. And most of the financial institutions are heavily focused on customer experience, enhancing the customer experience. And for credit unions whose interest is the member experience and serving their members, they are stressing more on the customer experience or the member experience. And the second most important business objective is deepening the relationship with your existing customer. The cost of acquiring new customers is high, while adding new products to your existing customers is much lower and much more efficient and much more value. You will get the returns from it. So those are some of the key business objectives that are driving digital transformation. And also one of the new objectives is brand loyalty. A lot of technology companies that already have a brand loyalty are jumping onto financial services, providing financial services to their customers. It becomes a responsibility of financial services to build their own brand within their own communities so that they can get better visibility. The least business objective, according to us, is the efficiency or cost saving. It is important, but it is kind of considered as the last most important objective for driving digital transformation is the cost reduction, the increasing efficiency within their internal processes. But it doesn't matter what business objectives you have, but digital transformation must be driven by key business objectives. All right. While a lot of financial institutions are doing many things, they are putting the right plan, the right strategy, the right team, the right resources, everything is done. But still, we are hearing from the leaders that I talk to are saying that 84% of them are saying they don't feel like the digital transformation is meeting their business objectives. And that is coming from different areas. And there might be different reasons for different financial institutions. But focusing on the key digital explorers and digital players, what we have discovered is the digital explorers are challenged by legacy systems, the lack of APIs, the lack of insights from their existing data sources, and the legacy mindset. These are some of the reasons that are basically not giving them the results that they were expecting when they pitched this idea to their executive team or the board members. But for the digital players, the challenges are a little different. They have crossed the first hurdle of becoming an API-driven, a data-driven organizations. But what they are seeing now is the cost of supporting the digital customer is increasing. As they have opened up the digital channels for their customers, they are getting significant traffic on their websites, on their digital channels, which is requiring the need for much better support for the digital customers. So they are seeing an increase in cost in their customer support. They're also seeing a significantly increased risk that is coming from the digital channels. That might be a fraudster looking to open an account on their digital channel because now they allow them to open an account on their online or on their mobile channels. So they are also seeing a risk increase in the risk from the digital channel. And they're also seeing that the growth that they expected, the growth that they predicted from digital transformation is not there. There is a lack of growth. And what the numbers that they predicted, they're not seeing them meet those expectations. And that's basically making them say that the digital transformation is not meeting the business objectives. There is no silver bullet to address all these problems. These problems have to be addressed. These challenges have to be addressed one-on-one, but there are ways to monitor them and kind of stay on top of this to get the better result. Go to the next slide. Based on our research and based on our interaction with our current customers or the client base, we are basically saying that it's not enough to have a key business objectives to drive your digital transformation, but it's also important to have the right KPIs for the business leaders to have them accessible and monitor them in real time. What that means is giving the business leader, the driver of this digital transformation, giving the right tools and technology and platforms so that they can put their hand on the pulse of it and sense what's going on in every area of business when they deploy the digital transformation. That can be to understand how the customer experience is adding value to their organization, or it can be monitoring the product performance to see what product is selling better than the other so that they can instantly make a decision on changing their strategies. Or it can be identifying new opportunities that came from either a request from a customer or a member from a different channel, or it can be just the data, looking at the data, they might identify a need for a new solution or a new product. So keeping constant visibility on identifying new opportunity is very critical for a success of digital transformation. And also monitoring the back-end processes. Sometimes when you put a lot of technology out there, enhance the experience, do everything, but your back office, the back-end processes, if they are not enhanced and they are not performing at their optimal way, but you will not see the value in it. So it's very important for a business leader to constantly monitor their back office processes to see how efficiently they are performing. and also identifying customer needs. Don't wait for customers to tell what they need. Instead, you should have the tools to proactively understand what your members and customers are looking for, so that you can take those products and services to the customers, to the members, before they even know it. And moving from there, monitoring the customer engagement, which is very critical to make sure the customers are engaged, the customers are interacting into the digital channels the way you expected. So monitoring these key KPIs on your implementation will give you a better idea on how you're performing. And the partnership with Devo, Digital Align and Devo are basically looking to partner to give the clear visibility for the business leaders to understand these KPIs, to make instant decisions on those KPIs and take action instantly, rather than waiting for their IT team to give them the reports and analyze them and have a discussion. But Devo platform gives them the ability to make those decisions, and we'll see it how Devo does it in the next few slides.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. Appreciate that overview of digital transformation and how that all fits into the overall financial services processes. One of the items that is certainly prevalent within the industry is the need and the adoption of digital transformation projects. But it simply doesn't end there. There are many advantages that can be realized by not only effectively implementing a digital transformation project, but even taking that one step further into looking at the latest and best options as it pertains to processing and overall business optimization. So to illustrate a little bit more around that, I will invite Gaurav to go ahead and give us an overview of the Devo system. Gaurav?
Thanks, Bill. And to say the least, I totally agree with you. But I would like to focus on some of the pitfalls in the digital transformation initiatives, which my colleague Rajesh really kind of alluded to. He kind of laid out the whole roadmap for digital transformation and what are the key objectives that business leaders should kind of keep in mind when they go into these initiatives. But I think what was striking in his presentation was 4 out of 5 of such initiatives, they fall back. They basically don't align to the business goals that are being set for these initiatives. And I wonder, why is that? Is that because there is lack of user adoption, which means are those transformation initiatives not helping the business community to make their decisions smarter? Or is it because that they started with minimal focus on value and more on data, which means questions like, hey, how can we put all our data inside a lake and start fishing out of it? Did we have the right initiatives at the right level to start with? I believe, and Rajesh, you can correct me here, digitization creates lots of insights. It creates lots of data assets for business communities, and that's great. We need those insights and those assets. But to me, it essentially fails to address the key gap between the knowledge and the wisdom. How do we apply, how do we leverage those data assets to make the right decisions and act on them? How can insights be translated into business value? How can business community really benefit from this continuous business optimization, complex business environment, the changes that happen, and also kind of innovate along with it? And then to me, the last key part is how do we address some of the business problems through these initiatives? So if I can conclude here, to me, digital transformation initiative can only be successful if it is focusing on this continuous business optimization and innovation, working with the leaders and trying to create that value system. This is where Devo makes its mark. Devo stands for data in, wisdom out. It's a cognitive decision-making platform which really translates these insights, which is generated in the knowledge world, we call that data-driven paradigm, into this wisdom, which is in the opportunity world. And Devo as a platform can really help users achieve those objectives, which Rajesh pointed out in his initial opening remark. So let's think about an astute business SME, Mark, who is responsible for growing his business in the small and medium enterprise domain. He's also responsible for maintaining his kind of risk across portfolio. Now, in a typical day, he is going through all the tons of reports and dashboards, Excels, scanning through thousands of these data points, trying to really understand what are the key business scenarios coming out of these reports. He's looking at a delinquency report, which is giving him some indication around non-performing assets, delinquencies, changes in delinquency rates, or it could be around market growth or asset valuation. But then in his mind, he's trying to come up with those hypotheses to understand, hey, what happened is from these reports, but why it happened. And going through all of these kind of puzzles and maze, he's trying to really understand the impact of it. What does this mean to my business? What should be my next best action? And as you can imagine, in your own world, Mark would have spent countless valuable hours under his constrained bandwidth just to make sense of all of this, just to kind of get what he really wants to make his business succeed, to meet his objectives. Now, what if a cognitive decision-making platform like Devo could augment his business acumen with contextual insights that are relevant for the given situation he's in, reduce his cognitive load significantly by just giving Mark focused kind of direction on what he should do, and then eliminate some of the cognitive confusion, like I mentioned. So in this case, what if Devo says, hey, I can see a situation coming up in your business because of poor performance or expected performance in your lines of businesses. I suggest you keep that in mind and enhance some of your investments across collections, which could significantly help you recover your losses and impact your profitability going forward. This is how Devo makes it easier, simpler for users like Mark to start their day off. Well, how Devo does that? Devo works on our patented framework called SEAL. It stands for Sense, Explore, Act, and Learn. So Sense is really about continuous monitoring of what's happening in the environment, in the ecosystem where Devo is deployed. What's really going around the data feeds? How are the business policies changing? How are the rules evolving? And with that, it is able to sense some of those invisible opportunities that were not seen by those users like Mark. And those opportunities could be anywhere around risk mitigation by sensing potential frauds. It could be around improving new business performances by balancing delinquencies or profitability. Or it could be around incentive realignment across your channels to maximize your sales throughput for products and services. Or it could be around customer experience by effectively managing churn or churn prevention. So all of these opportunities, given the use case Devo is deployed for, Devo can start sensing them and come up with those valuable insights, turning into opportunities, which can then be explored. So explore is where Devo can provide some decisions, and based on that, SMEs will have opportunity to calibrate those decisions, build their own strategies, do what-if analysis, and work through Devo's cognitive insights, come up with their most optimal decision faster than what they would have done in the traditional naive world, where they would have gone through all the piles of reports and dashboards. And this is what we call as man-machine symbiosis, like working, learning from humans, because they have a lot of acumen and they can guide us into some certain direction, while system can help humans to become more smarter based on what it sees across different data points. And this helps us go into the next part, which is ACT. ACT is a critical cog in the wheel, where it really delivers those decisions explored in the previous stage and turns them into tangible value. This is where users can know what is the right time, the right opportunity to react and then help create that value, which is being kind of articulated by Devo. And last but not least is learn, which basically closes the loop from where we started. It helps system to continuously learn from users' interactions, from users' experience on Devo, their past decisions, changing environment, and this continuous learning makes Devo aligned to the business needs. It matures with business. That is what we call as continuous business optimization. Now, the way users can interact with Devo is through its three key personas. The first one is called Ask. Ask is about insights on command, meaning a user can interact with Devo in a natural language. They can ask a question or they can type a question, and Devo can not just respond to the question, but it also gets into the context of the question. What is the intent of it? And helps it users to be in a guided conversation, which means tell a story to the user so that they can make their decisions faster. The next persona is Watch, which is all about insights on time. This is where Devo brings in near real-time, real-time contextual insights about what's happening in the business. Give those proactive situations so that users can react to it and they can start to understand how can they be most effective while solving their key business challenges as they happen. And the last but not least is Devo Decide. And this is where we have opportunity-driven decisions. This is the core of Devo, driven by the SEAL methodology that I just spoke about. In this persona, users will be able to see those opportunities. They can act on those, and then they can start to understand how these opportunities will make impact downstream when they start to implement them. So these are the three key personas of Devo: Ask, Watch, and Decide. Moving on. The way Devo is able to deliver value to the users is through its cognitive architecture, which is really built to scale and flexible to adapt to business needs. And this is where we have our cognitive processes like reactive, reflective, synthesis, and deliberate processes to really help understand what's kind of happening underneath all the data and data assets. These processes are able to generate some of those knowledge actors, which are then kind of streamed into Devo's knowledge base. This knowledge base stores all of these actors in a kind of distributed in-memory knowledge object store, which is now available for the three personas to be kind of to be consumed. So all the knowledge actors that are available is across those personas, and the way users interact with Devo is able to customize its response, and kind of given the persona, it is able to give those insights back, those opportunities back to users. With that, I would just want to show how Devo in a real life situation could help Sally, who is one of a key business executive, challenged with some of the delinquencies that are happening in her key portfolio. She's kind of walking a tightrope between how to minimize delinquencies at the same time kind of increase profitability in her portfolio.
Imagine being able to identify delinquent loans ahead of time and having the tools to recover them effectively. As a credit risk management executive, I like starting my day by having a conversation with Devo to get a sense of the latest shifts in our credit risk exposure. I can discuss causes of delinquencies or the most cost-effective recovery methods. Devo understands my unique context to provide useful insights to help lead the conversation and solve my problems faster. This concept of cognitive decision-making is what truly sets Devo apart, working with me not only to identify business solutions in advance, but also understanding my surrounding factors to build the optimum action plan together. In this case, Devo works continuously to identify high-risk segments, suggesting adjustments to approval rate and credit limit, all while maintaining revenue by shifting risk to safer segments. This knowledge is presented in natural language with clear, interactive visualizations to provide a concise overview of vulnerable areas within my organization, while also providing optimized strategies to increase recoveries and lower delinquency costs. By giving me these business levers and interactive strategies each step of the way, I can build and share the best possible game plan. That's what I call decision-making superpowers.
So with that, certainly there's a compelling argument for not only the digital transformation process and projects that go along with it, but even more advanced technologies such as the cognitive processing platform that DIWO offers. Rajesh, I had a question. Within an organization, who really is most suited to be responsible for the oversight and overall drive the success of any digital transformation project?
Sure. I'll take that question. And before that question, Bill, just a comment to the audience. So what we saw, it's very exciting for me being in the industry and helping financial institutions go through the digital transformation journey. It's exciting to see a technology, a platform like DIWO, which can not only help me or guide me to build the right strategy for my digital transformation, which is very important, because if the strategy is not right, then I'm barking the wrong tree. That's where DIWO comes into picture and helps me to identify the key challenges, the key issues that my organization is facing, for me to build the right strategy, not just give me the insights, but also give me some recommendations that I could use and expand on. And once I do that and go on to my digital transformation journey, DIWO can constantly help me to monitor what changes I'm making, what impact I'm seeing. If I am deploying a new account opening solution, am I getting the right value? Am I displaying the right products on there? DIWO can constantly monitor that in real time and guide me as a business leader who is driving this initiative to change my course in the middle of it to get a better value, which is very powerful. And not just during the process of digital transformation, even once I have done and deployed the digital transformation, DIWO can help me to monitor it and build my next roadmap. So it's amazing how a platform can not only help you to initiate your digital transformation, to build the right digital transformation journey, and to get the highest value of your digital transformation implementation, which might yield into a better ROI. And also the 84% of the leaders who are saying they don't get their business objectives met, now their business objectives will be met significantly much higher than that number, because they have an opportunity to tweak it and manage it as they go. Just to Gaurav, do you agree with my comment?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Rajesh. And just to add to your point, I think there is, like I said, there is always a gap between how data can help support business users in their decision-making process. And this is where DIWO comes in with its key personas to kind of help them identify those opportunities in advance and look into those opportunities so that they can make the right decisions on it.
Yeah, thank you. And I just for me, it's any digital transformation should not start without a tool like DIWO that can be like a navigator, a Sherpa for you to walk through that journey, which will give a lot of confidence for the business leaders to take on this kind of initiatives. And based on my experience, most industry leaders are not taking on this kind of initiative because of the unknowns. And I think DIWO will help them to know better their current organization and better know where they are headed. Going back to the question, Bill, sorry to get distracted, but to answer who should lead the digital transformation journey, based on my experience, it should be an executive. Whether you call this executive a chief digital officer, a chief retail officer, or a chief executive officer itself. The reason for that is we need a leader who basically wants to generate value to the organization, who is responsible for the P&L, should be driving this, because end of the day, digital transformation is not a technology or operational transformation. It's a business transformation. It's led by business, driven by business, and the value that it generates is a value for your business. So according to me, a leader who is responsible for generating value and an executive who can make decisions should be driving the digital transformation in an organization.
Thank you very much, Rajesh, for answering that question. For the folks on the webinar, you can ask any questions via the interface, type those in, and we'll go ahead and answer those. But before we get to that, I had one more question for Gaurav. Certainly the personas and the CL methodology that is followed within DIWO is quite interesting. You did talk a little bit about the learn aspect to the methodology, and I'd like to know a little bit more about how a platform like DIWO uses that interaction experience to really become smarter in a sense.
Right, thanks, Bill. I think that's a great question. And that's what essentially differentiates DIWO in the marketplace. DIWO as a cognitive decision-making platform, leveraging its cognitive processes like reflective learning. It learns from user interactions, which we often call as unsupervised learning, essentially to improve its recommendations going forward. We believe with man-machine symbiosis as a concept, DIWO is able to understand what it can learn from the users, because users in their own mind has a lot of experience under their belt. They have a lot of acumen about their domain. So how can a system like DIWO mature with those users, learn a little bit more about how they react to a particular situation, how they strategize, and come up with their own decision making? Because that can help DIWO not just kind of improvise itself, but also kind of cross-pollinate some of those ideas across the organization. Maybe a user is sometimes more aggressive in the strategies, while some other users might be conservative. How can we kind of collaborate and learn from each other via DIWO in the kind of core of it? So essentially, it's all about maturing with the users, adapting to the ecosystem, and becoming really more smarter as it evolves in the organization.
So that really kind of illustrates the idea of the continuous improvement that's really necessary for any of these digital transformation projects to ultimately succeed. I guess the bigger question, as we understand that at a detail level, and I'm going to put this to both panelists here, how does the business community benefit from implementing not just the transformation projects, but even a platform like DIWO? And Rajesh, if you wouldn't mind taking your answer for that.
Sure. So if I understood the question, Bill, how could the business community benefit from implementing a platform like DIWO?
Yes. What are the benefits of doing so?
Yeah, I think in the comment, I kind of illustrated that. So the key benefits is to, be able to understand their current state on where they stand, because a lot of the data, the insights are hidden, and DIWO can help them get the clear visibility on what the value they are getting. And just to give an example, we might be seeing a lot of applications coming on our website. We might be seeing, but the result, the number of accounts that are opened might be very minimum, and we don't know the reason behind it. And the reason can be multiple things. It can be the customers are abandoning because of a customer experience challenge, or the customers are failing the KYC because the rules of KYC are stringent and they're not letting them to flow. So that's where DIWO comes into picture, which can give us the visibility on what's really happening and where they need to put a right strategy and right improvements in as part of the digital transformation journey. And also DIWO, as we talked about, a continuous monitoring while the implementation is going on. There might be a certain strategy that was built on some legacy data, but as the environment, the customers are changing, you might realize that you thought that the strategy might be a great solution, but during the process, you realize that the customer expectations are now changed, the environment has changed, something has happened in the business world, which this might not be the right time to deploy it. So giving them the real-time insights and real-time visibility, those are the key values. And the most important and most interesting for me as a business leader is the action. It basically Devo giving me not just the insights, but also telling me where I can focus on, where I can invest, give me an heads up in making that decision so that I'm prepared, I'm much more equipped to make a better decision, not just taking the insight and spending time on understanding it and analyzing it and then making a decision. So those I see are the key values for a business leader who is driving digital transformation.
Rajesh, thanks for that answer. Certainly there's a lot to be understood along with the benefits that come along with a platform like Devo. I did want to give Gaurav a chance to answer that question as well.
Thanks, Bill. I think, Rajesh, you were dead on with your response. I believe you have covered some of the aspects that I wanted to speak, but I would kind of add a little bit more to taking a leaf of your response. So Devo as a cognitive decision-making platform, it really comes down to how it can help users to be more proactive in their decision-making, be more smarter and effective. So it's not just about being more efficient, like do more in less, but it's also becoming more effective. How can we be more innovative in our domain? How can we kind of add more value beyond our roles? That is where Devo comes in and says, hey, I'm sensing some opportunities for you, not just to optimize some of your or maximize some of your business objectives, but also to see what additional nuggets you may have in your organization. How can you make some of your segments grow faster in terms of growth? How can you make your lines of businesses bigger? Those are the themes that we really focus on when you go out and deploy Devo case by case. Our objective is to create value. That value could come from optimizing some of their core processes, decision-making aspects, or it could be on the innovation side as well.
Okay, very good. Gaurav, I have one more question. How can a financial services institution get started by using, how do they get started with the Devo platform?
Right. So I think that's a great question as well. So typically, Devo as a solution-centric platform has to be kind of defined for a use case. So when we start to think about a platform like Devo, we have to really think, what are we trying to solve? What is the business problem that we are kind of attaching ourselves to? And what is the real use case for Devo to be there and do what it is intended to? So it starts with the genesis of a business problem, an issue or a challenge that we are trying to solve for a business community. And from there, we evolve into a use case definition. And that use case definition is typically defined working with some of the experts, SMEs in the domain, like Rajesh, partnering with Digital Align, who can help us really understand what it means to be in that area, what that use case should be, what is the scope of it, and how do we define those boundaries? Because in our experience, we have seen Devo can only be effective if we know the boundaries well. If we are trying to solve solve a problem with a focus and attention, not kind of tangentially going away from it. So we have to keep those walls up when we start to think about Devo's deployment, and working, with partners, with the consultants, and the business community. We come up with those detailed requirements, which then goes into defining some of the key components of Devo in this architecture. From a deployment scale perspective, Devo as a small POC engagement could range anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. But from a production scale implementation point of view, depending on the complexity, it could be anywhere between 6 to 7 months. But yes, we have to be focused. We have to really define our scope and have the requirements pretty much cleared up before we start to deploy Devo.
Thank you very much for that, Gaurav. Very much enjoyed to have both yourself and Rajesh on as panelists today. We'd like to thank everyone for joining the webinar this afternoon, and we will be following up with an email to see if you have any questions and get those answered. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.